mirrors, or do you think like a lot of players are going to go out of their way to dodge that?
I mean, it's hard to say, right? Like, it's interesting because we haven't had any mirrors the entire tournament, and now you can run into one. So let's see.
Can flip the script entirely, but let's flip the script and move into the game. It's time to kick off the second series. Best of 5 between Beasty and Leenock. Beasty, of course, repping the Mongols, the civ he was known for when the game first came out. Leenock, it's not quite as Chinese, but there's another greedy civ that loves to boom up. It's going to be the Abbasid dynasty.
And interestingly, we see Leenock going straight onto the berries, a little bit unorthodox against Mongols, typically because they do like to tower rush. And, I mean, with the gold being there, looks like a pretty good spot for a tower, I would say.
Yeah, it looks quite tasty. And it used to be, if you got too greedy with your outpost placement, the villagers just get pulled. They just hold torches, you die. But there were some tricky changes to the Mongols' early game with the Dark Spearman changes, right?
I mean, they got the extra damage now, so I don't know. It's just been such a solid staple of Mongol play for so long. It's just the perfect mix of like being aggressive, but not being too aggressive that you put yourself all in, you know? So I don't know, man. Maybe it's a bait though. Maybe he wants him to tower here instead of the wood line.
That's true. I think like the Abbasids definitely feel themselves on wood. There's a few civs right now we're seeing food and gold as a priority, but I think Abbasids, they look at the gold, they go, this is not what I need.
Yeah, you don't really need it. You typically don't benefit from going like fast castle, for example, with Abbasids, so that's fine.
I love how this trick came in instantly the moment they gave them the Gur, right? It's like, just go herd some sheep.
A little taxi driver. He's got his little sheep friend.
Now keep in mind you have to deploy it first, otherwise the sheep will ignore you like you're not Papa.
Should bring the boar too, man. That'd be so sick.
Please don't give them ideas. Like coming to this event, a lot of people are like, yeah, Mongols are like trash. They're not going to be good. Then they saw the pop maps. They're like, oh, maybe Mongols will have a use, but they're still not that good. Been looking pretty hot so far. I think they run a 60% win rate.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And there's that villager as expected. And where is Leenock's scout at, right? Yeah, he sniffs it out straight away. He's coming in behind the villager. Wait, no, I'm lying. I'm wrong. He's not at all. So he's as far away as possible from this. He's not going to see it at all.
I mean, you expect it, though. It's such a typical play from the Mongol player, so it won't be a surprise, of course. Like I said, I'd be a bit sad with this positioning. But, I mean, what can you do? You just have to deal with it.
I want to see if BC's going to shoot the mining camp and the mill, just so that you can't insta-delete them, right? So then you get paid.
I mean, I think most players now just sort of accept it. Like, I actually think the mill is in range of the TC, so it's not really at risk of being burned down. And of course, you get the extra burn resistance from the House of Wisdom. But yeah, quick pull.
And they just keep repeating this, right? Just an outpost, come back, try to burn me again. And even if you're not getting your outpost up, you are idling several villages in the process.
Yeah, it never feels bad. So, I just see a big transition onto wood already for Leenock, 10 on wood. Obviously wants to rush a archery range out as quickly as possible. Just get one archer out, ideally, just to make sure there's no possibility of extra towers coming up. You only really want them to get one up. You can't really stop the one that is coming up now. But yeah, I mean, Leenock will have access to stone, which is probably the most important thing here. You're not too sad about your gold being denied.
Yeah, the stone is on the front as well, though. So if we see BC follow up and go into archers as well, you get this clash. It actually might be quite difficult for him to get his hands on the resources for a second TC.
Possible. It really depends if BC is going to go into Horseman himself as well. I mean, this tower just lives, and you sort of just ignore it would be the correct play. Yeah, let's see. Obviously, the Abbasids having a set age up time is a little bit annoying with this case, because they will generally always get the tower up unless they're super greedy. So tower comes up, the mining camp's going to get burned down, so nice little bit of extra income for Beasty here. And yeah, like the next decision is basically, do you want to go for Horseman and then try and do extra pressure? Because obviously we see the archery range come down instantly.
It's interesting to see BC went up to 6 spears. I feel like most players so far, when they do this opening, they just stop at 4, especially if they know archers are coming. Is there any reasoning behind that?
Well, it might be because of this. He wants to keep 2 in the tower originally and keep adding towers. So, I mean, this is why you want to rush the archery range out, get the 1 archer out, so you can basically stop any more towers coming up. If you let them get more than 1, like something has obviously gone wrong in your game plan. So this should be denied.
And you can see Leenock has just been holding the wood. Like, he's almost got 300 in the bank. Should be enough to get the counter out. And we're going to see what BC wants to do. He's going to go for the deer stones. Afterwards, he said he could go into the stables play. Do you think there's a world in which he just tries to be greedy and rush castle like the Mongols historically do?
I mean, we've seen nerfs to Relic Income, which is like typically a mainstay of Mongols going fast castle. They want to grab up 4, if not 5 relics as quickly as possible. But good pressure here, actually. So, I mean, the extra set of spearmen is actually paying off here. Just Even if he loses 1 or 2, that's how actually he's going to go up. So we will force a ram out of Leenock eventually here.
Yeah, and of course, that's quite the burden on this map. We mentioned there's not much wood to be accessed. It feels like you're counting the trees. And it's like, that ram cost me 2 trees. That's like a 20th of what I actually have available to me.
And yeah, they're just buying the extra set of spearmen allows them to get the extra tower up. That being said, you're not as sad now if you have to make the ram, but we do see the Vilpool.
Yeah, Peasant Rebellion time.
Yeah,
and only one spearman in here, so not too many flurries of arrows coming out. Maybe you lose 1 villy, but it looks like the scout does actually pay the attention. In fact, that's a lot of villagers to get rid of this quick.
Yeah, I mean, like, it needs to die. But interestingly, like, this is not really the tower you want to get rid of, right?
Yeah.
You don't really want to go back onto gold super quickly here. You really want to get rid of this one and try and access some stone, because, I mean, his other stone is also further to the right-hand side here, so the entire left side of the map, he's got to go a long way if he wants to try and get an expansion up.
And there wasn't really an imminent panic to get back on the berries either, right? He's still got a decent amount of sheep in reserve. Yeah. He could have bought a little bit of time. And to that idea of playing east side, then that means he's playing towards the deer and the berries in the south anyway.
Yeah, we see, like, there's a lot of resources for Leenock that he really wants to access early on in this game on the right-hand side of the map. Probably more left side will be his late game focus, of course, but I mean, double deer pack being on the right side, yeah, it's tough being delayed on your natural expansion like this so much.
Yeah, and it looks like BC is now going to be shifting into the horsemen, so the 1-2 punch. We do sometimes see people go into the archers, but this maybe gives you a little bit more flexibility to raid, right?
I mean, you only really need 2 horsemen here. You don't need to overinvest in them because you basically force them to make spearmen here. But interestingly, we do see Leenock going quite heavy back onto gold, so...
Wow.
8 on gold. It's a very unorthodox play for Abbasid for sure.
Unless he's planning to trade for it, it looks like otherwise this is a castle age plan from him.
Could be. I mean, he has options in terms of getting wheelbarrow or the broad axe upgrade, so getting a little bit extra wood, but and we do see the wheelbarrow coming in straight away here. So, yeah, it looks like a bit more of a one-base play, and of course we do see the barracks coming down now as well. And another tower that is so annoying. Let me tell you, that is the worst feeling.
And he sneaks it perfectly. Like he distracted north side, so you're not even looking here. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's so brutal, actually. Yeah, I feel sad for Leenock just watching this. We've all been in this situation where you've dealt with the tower rush. You think like, okay, like I took maybe some damage, but like it's over. I can focus on my game plan. And then there's just a random tower behind your wood line that you didn't expect. So
even more so because he didn't go for the ram instead. Because he went for a ram, it's like, oh, I can just clean up an additional one, no problem, thumbs up.
Exactly.
It's great reactionary play coming out of BC. And right now, leveraging the fact he's got more horsemen than spears at defending, so he just overwhelms them, pushes off the gold again. But at the end of the day, all he needs to do now is wrap around here. Arrow slits are already prepped, so his wood line is about to go bye-bye.
I'm feeling a GG quite soon, to be honest. This is like such a brutal game. Like, really amazing pressure and domination of the map by Beastie here. Like, knowing that the backwood line is so exposed like this, yeah, it's tough.
It was great reactionary play as well, right? It wasn't like this was all scripted. He saw the move north, as you mentioned, and then he pivoted south side fully.
Yep, definitely.
Wow. And yeah, Leenock, is this just going to be the all-in maneuver? Just try to go do some damage the other way, maybe?
Well, he's got to go get... he's actually going so far north for wood.
Not like this.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the problem with this is that the sheep aren't going to last very long, and if you have to bring your whole army to defend here, who's defending at home?
I mean, what is there to defend? Like, it just feels, it just doesn't feel so good for Leenock here. We see Beastie already well on the way to Castle Age, gets a defensive tower up because he sees the movement north. So anywhere he's at risk of taking damage, he's now securing. He's on the boar.
Oh, getting a little bit of Pumba in his life.
Yes.
I love this as well. Like we've seen plenty of Mongol players where they actually they go pastures instead. They're like, it's safe. It's like, but if you have full map control, why play safe when you can play greedy? I
mean, it's actually a big complaint of mine about Mongol players for a long time. Like, you have so much aggression early on that other civs have to react to. You can always take deer. I think adding pastures, it definitely slows you down a little bit. It's free food. Get on the deers.
Exactly. Especially on these type of maps where the wood is limited to begin with.
Exactly.
Do you really want to be building these pastures when you can get a better gathering rate and not waste wood? Don't think so. Also, just trying to be a nuisance for the moment, but Leenock...
Even more idle time for Leenock. It's definitely adding up.
I think he's contemplating castle, but it looks of a hut.
The problem is, like, what do you do in castle?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Like, Beastie's, like, still getting stone. He can easily, like, get the monks out to get the relics quickly. He can pressure with, like, man-at-arm Lancer. And now we've got so much exposed resources on the map for Leenock being up the north with the wood. Yeah, I think... Quite soon after we see the age up, I'm very interested to see Leenock's face, because I don't think he's going to be very happy.
I mean, we're 10 minutes into an Abasa game, and he hasn't gathered a single pebble. No stone at all.
Yep. Very rare you see that. Very rare indeed.
Yeah, unless there's water on the map, which, of course, that's a different story. But, I mean, this is as dry as it can get. Oh, and the Ram will at least move in, so find some value. He does go on the egress, but the timing, I'm not sure if it's going to be good enough here. Step readout probably complete in the next 10 to 15 seconds, and an insta-pump of Lancers and Men-at-Arms after that.
I mean, good little push on the gold, though. Gets the villagers off there, but, I mean, BC can make Man-at-Arms against this and be quite happy. Usually, if you have this much gold when you age up as Mongols, you're sort of a little bit sad because, you know, you'd like to get double Lancer, double Man-at-Arms going instantly, but, I mean, just like 4 Man-at-Arms will basically deal with this one army. You're not too sad if the Ovu dies here. Obviously, the resource trickle is good, but again, like Leenock's going castle himself, but, you know, still got 90 seconds to go before he gets there. And again, what does he do once he actually gets to castle age?
Yeah, it's like if your opponent was a range comp, you could go, oh, Mag and Els would be my saving grace of the Bastards, but we know Mongols are just going to spam melee units that you do nothing against.
Nice little bit of pressure here, though, all being said, so...
Yeah, condenses him fully, so he retracts away from the resources. Although BC does still have those hidden resources, the boar, the deer, and now the gold vein to the right side that he's moved the step readout over to.
I mean, that Ram's going to take a long time if he wants to run over there, so, you know, they're not quick.
It's also the worst Civ to have to build Rams against. Like, I've got him. The building's going to... He's packed it up and he's running. Oh, well, he will shift his way around. I don't think he even knows about the step reader, actually. Like, if we check his vision, there's no way he would have sniffed this out, right? Oh, my... He's so close. Yet so far.
I mean, the risk here is BC gets too excited to fight into this before he's got just enough Man-at-Arms to basically deal with it. We see the army going very deep because Leenock feels so pressured to actually get something done at the moment. But, I mean, he can't dive the main TC. He doesn't have, like, anything to tank arrow fire. We see actually 3 barracks here, which is definitely what BC needs at the moment. Just, again, it's just all about the Man-at-Arms count. As soon as he gets to about 8 units, I think he'll be more than happy to fight. Yeah,
and at that point, Leenock's in full retreat, and once he's in full retreat, you know, it looks good that he's teched up, but he's still playing his pocket ecos, he's still playing away from his base, and he'll be forfeiting map control the moment that Men-at-Arms hits, like you said, 8, maybe even 10.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, Leenock sort of trapped this army at the back of BC's base, so he's forced to fight. He's going to lose this entire army force here.
Yeah, he's going to have to discard it behind it. He's prepping his own Men-at-Arms and crossbows, and you can do reasonably well off that as the Abbasis. You know, it kind of becomes a neutral stance unless there's Yam in the equation.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what he can get done. I still think it's really tough for Leenock here.
Yeah. It's just weird and kind of foreign to see the Abbasis playing like this.
Yeah, it is a very weird game. I mean, I've watched a lot of Leenock games myself playing Abbasid, and this is probably one of the most rough ones I've ever seen, so it's a bit surprising, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not too much greed out of Beastie. He waits until this deep in to go for the prayer tent. He knows he's about to get map control, so you're not even going to have a risk of your shamans dying when they're grabbing the relics.
Yep. The one priority for Beastie should be getting another Ovu up, though. Obviously, he's a little bit light on wood, because your focus as Mongols obviously isn't on wood when you're trying to go fast castle, but as long as he remembers that, I think he's in a really good spot.
I think that's another thing that like is helping the Mongols on these new maps. It's not just the idea that it's new maps, people haven't figured things out, and the Mongols, if you're the aggressor, is good on new maps that people aren't familiar with. It's also that a lot of these maps don't have much wood, and Mongols is probably one of the best civs at functioning on just food and gold.
Of course, and I mean, as we've already seen, as Marpi pointed out, just the little rat villager going around making towers everywhere. It's the worst feeling when you're trying to just like, you're being pressured and you're just like, oh, I'll just go here and I'll try and get like some wood or something, and there's a tower there, and it's just like, oh, cool.
There's a nice ripple effect to this. It's not just for the military influences, for those shaman going out, it's going to make you more efficient on making the return on the investment. Not to mention Springwall Towers can start to come in the equation if he wants to with that passive stone generation.
Yep. He did remake the Oval, of course, so that's good for Beastie. We did see Leenock going into a couple of crossbows now. Obviously, that's going to be like the core unit that he wants to bank his mid-game on, but again, still, 0 stone for Leenock.
Yeah.
0 stone. So the longer this game stalls out, the better it is for Beastie.
Do you think there's a world in which Beastie gets greedy and goes second TC, or do you think that's kind of throwing the game?
I don't think it's throwing. I think Beastie can easily go second TC. He doesn't need to go for the kill right now, but he probably just feels he's in such a good position that he can. So
yeah, the way I've talked to Beastie, the way he feels about himself is everyone expects him to always want that super greedy late game. If he gets a chance to end the game, he will take it. If he sees you're being too greedy, he will punish you. And the punishments are coming in. This men-at-arms count now up to 17. In small quantities, these crossbows don't even feel like they're countering the unit yet.
Yeah, I mean, the scary part here for Beasty is if he keeps making man-at-arms, then Leenock can actually stabilize on a decent crossbow count.
Yeah.
It might be forced to transition into the later game, but again, I think the position for Beasty is just very, very strong. Very hard for Leenock to come back here.
What kind of percentage would you put on it?
I'll do the old 99 to 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you watch a bit of Dota, you're just trying to give that, like, clutch comeback feel.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, my, okay, but yeah, now we are at the 99 to 1. I don't think Leenock's even noticed that still. Just one Lancer is going to be a complete nuisance in the back line.
Ah, that's brutal.
Oh, what? Yeah, let's just zoom in so we can hear the devs. We can hear them from far away anyway.
Yeah, it's the worst feeling when you see like the notification, you look over and you just see all the corpses. It's just like, oh man.
And it's so easy to see them as well. They're just wearing very blatant yellow robes that somewhat stand out against the terrain.
Yeah.
Stinger though, imagine that. Single TC from the Mongols. He's up against an Abbasid player. And the Mongol player is up 20 villagers now.
Not something you see every day. Usually it's the inverse of that. So, yeah. Just really well played by Beasty, you know, like just a good early pressure, good game plan, getting the the third set of spears, which generally you skip, allowed him to get the second tower up, and then, yeah, sort of just snowballed off that advantage, so.
Yeah. And it's a full peel back towards just the spears for the moment for the Mongols. And I'm wondering, like, do you just now full halt men-at-arms, just go Lancers and then mass spears and maybe your own crossbows as the Mongols?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of ways you can go about it. I think he'd be comfortable just adding a second TC here. I mean, maybe that's the one way he loses, right? That's the 1% play. So I don't think he needs to do anything particularly fancy. I think he's just more than fine just trading units constantly here. Yeah. But crossbow is definitely the unit needs to get into at some point here.
Yeah,
and we do see the first one coming through now, actually.
I was about to say, this is one of those matchups as well. Like, usually if you start building mass range against your Basses, like, you want to be pummeled by rocks. But the beautiful thing I always loved about this matchup is the creeping siege on both sides that allows you to snowball each victory if you need to add in mangoes or other things. And
we do see, speaking of a Mangonel coming down for Leenock here, and this just feels like very much a Hail Mary play. Needs to get a lot done with this, I would say. But, I mean, what does he even push?
Like himself to map 2?
Pretty much. I mean, like, we see these front berries, maybe a little bit exposed, but he has, like, back berries as well, so I don't think it's particularly scary. But, I mean, the one chance here, I would say, is that BC might have forgotten to get the improved siege engineering. Maybe that's a possibility. So if he can't make Springholms, maybe this can work. Yeah, but there is still a concern. You haven't got many spears to defend this Mangonel, and there are some Lancers in the field for Beasty, which are right now busy murdering more poor Abbasid people. I feel like we hover on this on purpose so we can hear the death cries, the over-dramatic death cries. I mean, I think that's sort of Leenock's reaction to when he looks at his economy of this game. I would probably have the same reaction, so. Yeah, in his head, you can just hear the screaming. Yep. But very calm on the stage, at least. And these Lancers, I think now that the Mangonel's been seen, this is where Beasty's going to prep the whole army to party in the base. Even use the Shaman to heal off any damage done to his front lines right now. Yeah, it's really smart. I mean, again, like, what do you push with the Mangonel? Like, that's exposed. Yep. That's fully exposed. Just going to wrap onto it. Lancer already gets down to half HP. One shot comes out, but that should be all she wrote as the Mangonel will go down. Crossbows are going to be pinched on the backside by the Lancers. And it looked like it was going to be a decent exchange for Leenock if he was able to pivot quick enough, but BC just routs the Leenock army. Yeah, I mean, again, like, Leenock was so far behind. This was really his one chance of getting a victory here, and just slight miscalculation of the positioning of the army for Leenock, and Mangonel dies. That's it. And that's the weakness on such open maps as well. It's one of the things that makes the Mongols so good here on this type of map. We've seen the English as well. You can't be the defender, and it feels like it's impossible for the Abbasid to not be the defender in these matchups. Yeah, I mean, and like, he was defending the whole game, and he didn't even get to expand. So, I mean, that's never a good feeling. And Beasty, as a result, will take a 1 point up. I mean, like I said, he said he knows Leenock's weakness. I don't think that this says too much about Leenock per se. I just think it says a lot about the Civ and the map choice. But I mean, like I said, though, like, when was the last time you saw Leenock struggle that much on Abbasid? Probably definitely his best Civ for many months now, and I mean, he just got dominated.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. I remember watching him transition to it in the early days of the year in the 3v3 tournaments. He was I called him the bottom of the formation, right? He just spammed spears as Abbasids and let everyone else boom. He'd catch up. And then after that, he stopped playing Chinese as much. You saw that clear steer. And well, it eventually paid off, at least in the last batch when the Abbasids were everywhere with the TC booming. But it looks like next we are going to be moving over to Prairie. Another very exposed map, another one where the aggressor is usually favored.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what Beast is going to feel comfortable picking here. Maybe Hatchery. I imagine he'd probably want Hatchery for the hybrid maps though, but I definitely see French for Leenock on Prairie.
Yeah.
Maybe Ottoman for Beastie. I don't know. Let's see.
That's what I was thinking. I've heard a kind of clash of ideas. Some people definitely don't like the almonds on Prairie. Other ones think it works. I was kind of on the I don't think it works bandwagon until I saw what Demuslim done against Kapoch with the 2 TC condensed into the passive production. So maybe the almonds could be the player here.
I mean, it could also be Delhi. It was Leenock versus, I think, Kapoch as well.
Yeah.
In the group stages was French for Leenock on that map with Kapoch playing Delhi. So maybe Beastie, of course, a very talented Delhi player himself.
Yeah, and historically, I feel like the Delhi have been favored over the French. It started to happen on Dry Arabia a few months back, where France was still dominating, and all of a sudden, Delhi became kings.
Yeah.
So, thinking forward on this, you know, is there a worry that the momentum switches if we go to water maps? Like, have you seen a weakness in BC's play there at all?
I don't think so. I think BC would be much more comfortable on water maps compared to Leenock, I think. So,
wow.
Yeah, Leenock's really up against the wall, I would say, this series, unfortunately.
It feels like a repeat of the last one that way.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a rough match for Magic. Like, if he couldn't get momentum early on, we got the warm maps, Lucifron just on point with the micro. Maybe Leenock tries to go a little bit spicy with something like Mediterranean. We saw what Kapoch was able to do with the Chinese going on land, but looks like it is going to be the HRE you mentioned, and as expected on the other side, Leenock will be whipping out the French.
Yeah, keen to see this one, to be honest. This is... I mean, I was one of the most vocal whingers about this matchup, you know? Like, as a HRE player, you could never beat French previously, but, I mean, it's sort of changed now. I think HRE can be very comfortable playing this matchup at the moment, so it is very open, but I think what we'll probably see from BC, just try and take a lot of wood early on, add farms with the second TC, and then just try and weather the storm until we can get to Castle Age. Yeah,
I think the thing that maybe makes HRE an unexpected great pick here is, although it's not your tempo aggressor that we've seen dominate on Prairie regularly so far in the tournament, it's the sheep, right? There's just so many sheep, so you can play safe under your base. And what we saw in the Road to Wololo constantly with Frizzy Marshes, if an HRE player can do that, they're very comfortable to get through to their power spike.
Yeah, I mean, the extra sheep definitely always help for HRE. The good thing about, as you mentioned, the abundance of sheep, you only really need to go one scout. Typically, versus French, you would always feel pressured to go two. But just having a little bit of extra economy from not skipping the Ville now is quite nice. But yeah, let's see. I'm interested to see how Beastie plays it out because, as we mentioned, very open map. French is going to have a lot of tempo in mid-game, but let's see if Beastie can weather it.
Do you think it's the type of game where Burgrave is the go-to play?
No.
No?
Never.
Not a Burger fan?
I tried it many times, and, like, yeah, the Knights are just too good against it, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. You can't brace, you can't stop them. But it looks like it's time. Game number 2, another land map, hopping into Prairie. Beastie leading against Leenock. What will he do? He'll whip out his signature Civ, the HRE, to try to make it 2-0. Leenock, though, comes out with the aggressive Civ. He's playing the French. Well, looking at the opening, is there anything about the initial spawn that looks a bit spooky? Like, Leenock has very little wood, right?
Welcome to Prairie.
Yeah, I've seen some weird spawns where someone gets like 3 clusters around them. I'm like, you're being spoiled right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, that's actually an amazing Archon position for BC coming up. He'll have pretty much everything under it. So, I mean, he'll be happy in that respect. But yeah, I mean, if he has to add farming eco there at some point, he'll be probably a little bit sad. But I mean, the thing about this map is like, where do you start walling? You know, like, how do you actually negate the advantages of the French Knight? It's so hard to cover all of your bases. We did see Leenock yesterday going for basically the tri-comp very early on. So he goes the Knights, and then he adds an archery range really quickly. And then because obviously you want to make Horseman versus that, he adds the barracks quite quickly and goes Spearman himself. And typically he's been tower rushing on this map as well. Yeah. Basically making the most of the lack of wood for the opponent. So be interesting to see what he does there. We did see Beastie open with a second scout. So definitely wants to make sure he scouts all of the relics and gets as many sheep as possible.
I love your point around the walling, how difficult it is. I think we saw a good way to kind of approach it from Magic in the previous series, right, where you have to take chunks. But I think in that game, there were better wood spawns for it, right? Like there was just a natural kind of splattering around. Whereas here, it almost feels like you're on top of a hill and the wood's all at the bottom far away.
I mean, you do have to fight for wood, which is like not normally it's very atypical of the maps you generally play, especially on ladder and stuff. It's usually, okay, cool, I'm going to get out mid-map, I'm going to secure this area so I get gold, or I get stone here or whatever, or I get food. Here it's all about the wood, so.
And one thing I noticed Leenock should benefit from here is if he takes mid-map aggression early, and he wants to play pocket ecos, that boar is so far away that it's unlikely Beastie is going to be able to punish him early on in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful spawn for it. What can you do about that? I mean, typically you wouldn't want to be on map anyway. I think the way Beastie generally likes to play is that he's quite defensive and just is very happy just doing his own thing and it avoids taking damage whenever possible. But yeah, that's a really nice ball.
Oh, interesting.
Well, this basically answers what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Definitely a second TC coming up very quickly.
And you can see a valuable location, I think, on the board, right? The board, you've got like 3 small tree lines we mentioned is kind of budgeted. Or do you think he has to be a little bit more defensive and maybe go for like the back corner with just more wood?
I mean, it's tough because on this map you only get 3 deer per spawn, of course. Yeah. So it's not as viable on other maps. I think
you can pull them both towards the TC though, right? The boar and deer.
I mean, it's a good spot, but the problem is then you're so exposed, right?
Yeah.
So the early aggression can come in. You can see towers denying the res on the outside. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Maybe you just play. Do you think it's possible to just play condensed 2 TCs and just make the farm transition?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think French has too much tempo in this matchup, and especially on this map. So, as we mentioned, you got a ton of sheep, so you're unlikely to run out too quickly. Like perhaps even a fast castle. Maybe he puts the TC next to the gold, just so he secures that position and just looks to play the mid game a bit slower.
Yeah, and the nice thing about doing that way is like if your Archon isn't going to extend across much, then you can at least build more prelates now.
Yeah.
Because you've got 2 TCs. Yeah, instantly hard onto the stone. And one interesting thing to think about is I think this Civ is the Civ that's crippled most by going out further for their TC placements because other Civs, sure, everyone gets idle time, but these guys have a 40% buffer they're missing out on each villager when they have to walk distances. I
mean, we're seeing a variety of playstyles in terms of like what you do with the expansion. So for example, I like getting wheelbarrow and a second prelate.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it. You can get just wheelbarrow or you can get just 1 extra prelate. So there's definitely a lot of ways of doing it. Basically just going straight for the second TC as quickly as possible though.
And that leans towards that idea you just said about a condensed second TC, because if you want to go anywhere, you'd want wheelbarrow on the way.
Yeah. I think the benefit of doing this version, especially against French, is that you should have the TC finished by the time the first knight gets there. So you can actually get it in a perfect position without worrying too much about getting denied.
And Leenock, he went for the wheelbarrow before the Skull Cavalry completed, so it looks like he's not trying to prioritize the perfect timing on the initial knight getting out here.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty typical of Leenock, though. Like, the instant archery range with the first knight going to come out and pressure very quickly. But the question is, again, can he get there before the TC is finished? And we've already seen 350 stone mined by Beastie, so he can basically put all the guys back onto, guys and girls, back onto wood. Oh. And, yeah, the TC should be well on the way by the time the knight gets there.
And I think it's telling that this is probably going to be on the gold now because of that fluid motion. Start on the stone, make your way over, minimize the downtime of your villagers moving towards their next objective.
Yep.
Yeah, great play. Scout vision should be at least good for Leenock, so maybe we'll see a way to weave it in. He does know about this TC, but we can check where the first knight is. I mean, he's about halfway across the field, but with this many villagers, I don't think he's going to be quick enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's very smart play by Beastie here to realize like the timings of the knight being there and the risk he's at. I mean, I can see a villager getting charged, but I think he shouldn't lose one. Gonna tank it with the scout. Ooh.
Ooh. It's a nice play. I think like it kind of optimizes you a bit. There is an archer coming as well. We did see Leenock pulled villagers.
Yep. And
he's building an outpost right here. Right, that's his.
Yep, that's a beautiful play. We're going to see one villager going down. Not too sad about that. Obviously, like you have to prioritize getting the TC finished because you need to secure this location. But Leenock says, cool, you can have the gold. My tower's also in range of it. So what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, this feels like the perfect way to react to this play, right? Like he waited long enough to let the TC be placed by Beastie.
Yeah, losing one villager, not too bad. Don't be a second. Oh.
Yeah, it's going to be a second. It might be all of them if he's not careful. Oh, God, is he too close still? He is. He has to back away. Already half HP, so Leenock won't get the tower up. Great reaction by Beastie, and now 3 dead villagers for Leenock.
I mean, what do you do? That's...
Bring more villagers.
But yeah, well, you have to. You have to.
Oh, there it is as well. It is. You got to double down. And now, the crippling detail is Beasty still has a scout alive, so if he sees this early, and he's even going to pop up his own outpost ahead of time. Oh, good lord. I mean, if this doesn't work for Lee, do you think it's that type of game where you can still play it?
I mean, like, these guys obviously don't want to give up. You got to stay in it to win it, but, I mean, this start is so rough for Leenock here. Like,
he's even going to torch it down.
Yeah, I mean...
like, wait, we're trying to repair that. Let us get in time. By the time you start tapping your hammers, it might be too late.
I mean, it might go up. It might go up indeed, but I mean, the investment here for this one tower, like before, it was fine, right? Like, if you lose 1 or 2 villages, but the tower goes up, okay, cool. Like, it's worth it. But I mean, losing 3 villages originally, and then you had to pull 4 more to get it up. Yeah, it doesn't feel good.
And this is deceptive, like, oh yeah, but they're even on eco. It's like, yeah, but the French should be producing a few more if you're 1-on-1, but BC is now 2 TCs versus the French one.
And with the 40% buff, of course. So yeah, the eco is heavily in favor of HRE here. I would say the interesting thing is, like, how do you sort of get rid of that tower now, though?
Yeah.
Typically, you're not too upset as HRE here to add a barracks and a stable and just sort of go Spearman Horseman just to clear this tower. But as you can already see, the tower from Leenock is in range of the wood line, and you don't have all that much wood around you, as we mentioned before. It's sort of like his only wood line here. He's got a couple of straggler trees, but that's so inefficient. It never feels good to be chopping away at them.
Does it feel good to like drop a racks and build like 2 to 3 men at arms and try to like torch this down with villagers as well?
Well,
okay, just
pull the boys.
I mean, Greedy Boy scraps it, and instantly the fortification is like, okay, this is a bad idea.
Yeah, that feels bad. It feels very bad.
And I think, yeah, Leenock is, if you check on the left side of the base, he's scouring around the remaining gold veins because he's like, well, Beasty needs gold now, so where's he going to get it?
Yeah. I mean, it's also for woodline he's looking for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is such a tough spot for BC. I mean, like we were saying, like the tower feels really bad, but I mean, he's got the fortification on it. The tower's going to survive. It's going to take a long time before this is cleared up. Like, you can't, just because he's making Horseman Spear, it doesn't mean the tower's going to die instantly, right? So, behind this aggression, he's obviously expanding too, so...
And, you know, some people are like, oh, why didn't Beasty just pull the villagers straight away? Why didn't he just torch it down? It's like, at that stage, his economy was so small that it would have crippled him way too much to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, we do see a ton of production coming down for Beasty, though. Probably not what he really wanted to be making at this point, though. Like, I think the game plan, like we mentioned before, more than happy getting the TC up. You might lose a villa or 2, whatever. You're going to have 2 TCs done. You're going to be getting gold. You're going to be heading towards Castle Age. Now he's sort of forced into playing Feudal Age a bit longer, and we know who that favors in this matchup.
Exactly, especially when you get butchered like this. Prelate goes down a villager as well, not to mention the idle time. BC's whole economy stopped working there. And this time adds up, especially now that we see Leenock has that second TC, something that BC is not aware of. He doesn't have a scout, so he hasn't spotted this out at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is like the perfect transition for Leenock, right? He does the aggression, gets the economy behind it, doesn't put himself all in, being too aggressive when he doesn't need to. I mean, he's securing, well, he's pressuring, rather, the points of the map he needs to be. Just this one tower is getting, like, insane value now, obviously. And it's all about the bottom right-hand side for Leenock. Can he get down there and start pressuring before BC can start securing this area?
I think there's a knight on the way. He's about to come on the screen. So that might be a little bit problematic here. Spears are at least in location, though, so BC already read it perfectly.
Probably didn't see the villagers down there, but obviously the army being down there tells him that there's something in that area, so...
He knows where the golds are, right? So you're just checking them regularly because there's only one logical play for the HRE here. It's not a feudal all-in. Yeah,
and we do see Leenock going quite heavy on wood here, so this indicates a lot of feudal aggression coming forward. BC obviously going 13 on gold when he's got only about 300 food, which never feels too good because he's obviously going to mine the 600 he wants very quickly here. Maybe he can get some eco upgrades, I guess, to offset that. But yeah, the economy has just been completely messed up by Leenock being so aggressive.
And the problem is the wood is drying up. It's not just the gold demand now. That food is going to disappear. You're going to need that wood to start doing this, the farm. 75 wood each is not cheap, especially when you consider, like, what? This branch of trees is maybe 20, and each tree is 2 farms.
And, I mean, the other benefit for Leenock in being so aggressive here, he forces so many vills away from the Archon, right? So BC is no longer getting the benefit of the 40% extra bonus gather rate, so...
Yeah, he didn't even build additional prelates because, of course, lacking the gold.
Yeah.
frustrating situation. So Leenock, I don't think he goes into a full all-in with siege engineering, right? Like, this is the worst civ to try and ram out of the game fast.
I mean, I think it's actually fine in this situation, right? Because he obviously doesn't want to hit the main base or anywhere near the secondary TC, but down on the bottom right-hand side where he's got exposed villages, that's definitely where you want to be aggressive towards. But
like, not you know, sometimes we'll see a French player prep the siege engineering, get the ram ready.
Yep.
You're not going to try to go in the main base. You're going to keep death by thousand playing this, right?
Yep. Yeah. You just need to pressure and just keep getting what damage you can. Obviously, we see Leenock trying to, BC trying to pressure Leenock here, but
it's a horseman.
Yeah, it's horseman is much worse than a knight at killing individual villages. So.
Yeah, I mean, you see how rubbish they are. He was running away from a wolf.
Yeah, why
terrible
not?
unit. Definitely not S tier of the feudal age.
The wolf is hungry, man.
Yeah, we've been waiting for you guys to come on this map all day. Let me munch on you. Nom, 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 nom. What makes this even more rough is I just noticed BC still, as soon as I say it, he still doesn't have wheelbarrow, and he's had to run around this much, which has crippled him even further.
I mean, it's weird, right? It seems like such an obvious thing, like, you know, oh, BC, you noob, why don't you get wheelbarrow? But it's like, if it's not in your build when you're originally going for something, it's actually really easy to forget it. So, I mean, he obviously has remembered to go back and get it, which is important, but, yeah, man, like, it feels really... See, this is like the saddest wood line I think I've ever seen.
If you think the wood line's sad, wait until you see what Landmark is doing. Oh, wait, okay, he switched it. He he actually started building the Burgrave, and I looked across at you, looked back, it's like, he is a misclick. Thank God he didn't follow through with that.
I mean, if you're going to lose, dude, like, you might as well go for the actual good landmark, right, in this situation. So, I mean, we did see the aggression from Leenock coming out. BC's forced out of the bottom right position, and I mean, where do you go for gold as Beastie? He's got gold on the left-hand side, but
he's gone west. He's going all because he needs the food, right?
Yeah, it's a great migration of Vils here, but yeah.
It's unlikely that gets scoured because I think right now Leenock has been just patrolling gold. It's out of the zone of patrol.
Yeah.
But it's still an incredibly dangerous move coming out from Beastie here.
And I mean, basically zero food for Beastie as well. So, like, cool, dude, you got Castle Age. What are you going to do? We see the production now being rammed down as well. I mean, Knight's obviously, like, the unit you really want in this position. But, I mean, Leenock's already got spears in the mix. He's not too heavy on archers, so man-at-arms don't even feel good here because of the French Knights, of course. But, I mean, this is such a tough position. I mean, can he even get relics? Like, that's the one chance he sort of has, I guess, if he can get like 2-3 relics snuck in, get a market, maybe you can make something happen, but yeah, there's just so much pressure on the front.
I'll give BC credit, like playing all these pocket ecos is the only thing he can do. It's very dangerous because he doesn't have map control, but beneficial because even if you don't have map control right now, Leenock isn't controlling the rest of the map, he's controlling your own base. So the great migration comes out. The Eve repairs will at least delay this a little bit, but now up to 4 rams coming out from Leenock. This is going to outdo this cheeky little healing element that the HRE have for their buildings.
And I mean, emergency repair can only do 1 building at a time, right? So, I mean, cool, you can keep this stable, but everything else is going to die, so...
A lot of villages shifting out as Leenock are running out of wood, but this is not risk for him. There's no risk at all. In fact, if you look at the military pop gap, 5 to 36, that's it. There's no way. GG gets called by BC. Leenock evens us up to 1-1 apiece.
I mean, I was saying I was interested to see how BC would play such an open map with HRE, and... I mean, we saw why it's typically a little bit of a weaker pick against the aggressive Knight civs, such as Roos and French, of course. So
It's surprising as well because he picks it here and we've still got water maps.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was sort of like, I don't think he'd be too happy with that spawn. Yeah, I mean, that's how she rolls.
No, I mean, you know what? He's got to be feeling confident after that one. We're going to have to see how confident he was feeling before he even got into this series. We've got an interview that we got from Leenock before this game began.
My name is Leenock. I'm from South Korea. I want to many practice, but this time really hard for practice because only few people can play pop, and I took BC before, so only I practice with some Koinu and Pasga because only Koinu same time zone. I'm Korean and Koinu Japanese. So maybe I can go to round 8. Just I feel. I'm really exciting because playing castle, so feel strange and it's good. I think good. Have not fear. Everyone I can win.
Humble but confident man. Always great to hear from Big Lee himself, and always great to see more games. That's what I want. You know, this is the thing, right? You as a player, Hart, you just want the 3-0, right? You just want it done over quick. I just want to move on. Don't want to panic. But when you're a caster, you're always winning. You want more games.
Of course. Always good to see what these guys have got prepared. So, I mean, it's been a good series so far.
And looks like we are going to be heading into a paddling pool this time. It's over to Mediterranean for our third map. Anything speaking to you, whispering into your ear, saying, pick me?
I think Leenock will definitely go for HRE here. I mean, what does Beasty go? Roos, obviously really strong on water. I think Roos probably more of a Boulder Bay pick he would save. Maybe English? Could be an English mirror.
That's interesting. I've seen kind of a split in this. Some people prefer the Roos for Boulder Bay and some people prefer the English. Do you not rate the men-at-arms spam that highly?
I mean, I think if you, like, once you've seen it and you know to just pre-wall, I think it's fine. I don't think it's too much of an issue, but... Okay.
Well, looks like he wants to whip out the Roos here. Maybe he's hoping that Leenock hasn't seen it before, doesn't need to pre-wall. But this should still lean in HRE favor, right?
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I think it does depend on the what sort of spawn you get with HRE. I think if you don't have your golden wood under the Archon, it can be a little bit sad, but I don't know. I mean, the extra wood from Roos, and I mean the fish boats are still expensive, 150 wood still. I mean, it's tough. I haven't not really seen Roos too much on like the open water maps, so yeah.
Yeah, I think we've had like 1 or 2 picks here and there, but usually I feel like the games we do see it with, it's almost just been the ones where it's like a 10-minute GG. Like I think there was the Viper one that we saw where, I mean, there was other things going on there, but he just waved the white flag after, 6 ships in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels a little bit better on Boulder Bay just because you can, if you get pressured heavily enough, you can just go to Golden Gate, buy stone, just get arrow slits if you really need. But, I mean, let's see.
Let's see what you can do here. Time for map number 3. Heading into Mediterranean. Beasty, of course, will be whipping out the Roos. But he'll be going up against the true naval power. Not usually in history, but definitely in Age of Empires 4. Leenock is pulling out the Holy Roman Empire.
I mean, we do see wood next to gold, obviously on not the close wood line, which would have been preferred. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he builds it up to the north here. But nice little spawn overall.
Yeah, it does look quite nice for him. And you know what I love actually about the current meta? HRE feel like the kings of the water, and HRE was like historically led by the Austrians.
Yep.
Austria historically had like 1 dock. They had like a fleet of like 1 ship maybe.
Yeah, can see that.
It's kind of a funny way.
The things we do for balance, right?
Exactly. Right, like, we saw the Roos with Jack of all trades, so what did? We took a baseball bat to the knee, took them out of the equation. Now they're like bottom 3 civs in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're okay. Definitely viable on hybrid, a lot more than they were on land, of course, but...
Yeah, because I think at the end of day number 2, like their stats were pretty abysmal. I think they were, I want to say, 2nd worst, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I think they're probably just a little bit hard to figure out at the moment. Like, yeah.
1 win, 6 losses.
Well, what are you going to do?
I mean, the funny part is like the almonds are down in that sort of area too. So it's like if there's a lot of picks, it can just be argued people are losing it as well.
You got people like me who are bad at the game, dragging those stats down. So
you're keeping it spicy. That's the way to figure out a Heart. All right. Maybe you're just ahead of your time. We're gonna get the grand finals. Someone's gonna whip out Ottomans on Boulder Bay, and you're gonna be. I help them with that.
Let's see. Why not? It's like Marine Lord. I keep telling him French sucks, and he's just like, no, you suck. So. Maybe these guys obviously know more than I do.
That doesn't sound like Marine Lord. I don't think he'd say you suck. It'd probably be someone do your mum sucking.
Yeah, no, he's a very humble person in real life.
I'm sure. Yeah, totally.
He's not smug or anything.
He doesn't keep going. I will beat them. It will be easy. I feel they can do nothing. Oh, love that guy. If you love Marine Lord yourself and you want to catch him, make sure you tune through to the end of the stream because him and Poppy Paw, I believe, will be the last series.
Yes, last series. Yeah. Big game.
Very cool way to round out the stream. But, of course, you're up against the Roos. Got to remember to snipe out some of that bounty. Leenock, of course, will only go 1 scout. The beautiful thing about being on a water map, the Roos guy is not going to build more scouts either.
Well, I mean, it's been a bit of a meta shift, actually. Previous patch, you would be seeing the hunting cabin coming out quite quickly just for the 2nd scout. And you wouldn't make 3 or 4 like you typically would on land. But the 2nd scout was generally used just to secure maybe like 2.5 deer packs and whatever wolves you can find. Yeah. But interestingly, Beasty's saying, no, I'm just happy with 1.
I mean, even just get like the 2.5 deer packs, like each deer pack's worth 70 gold. food-wise, you're paying 70 food for a scout. It's a good exchange.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, you've just got these units that can keep an eye on your opponent's base. Maybe he tries to make a land rush happen and you know ahead of time. But no, interesting one. Also, the hunting cabin's just nice to open up with just to get the initial like gold trickle going.
Yep.
Do you think it's just because the crippling element of naval is if you go that build, you're maybe like one ship behind and that could really be the difference?
Not sure why it's sort of, I guess because it's the bounty with sheep is no longer there, right?
That's true.
If you would go for the hunting cabin, typically you would also want to get wheelbarrow quite quick because you would have an excess of gold. We do see 300 gold for Beastie. But I mean, you can't risk being short because any delay on your age up timing can be quite dangerous, obviously, on water. So
that's fair. It's like you feel like you have games where after you've got your bounty and you see it's a good number, like, oh, I got 250 or I got 300. It's like, I wish I knew it was going to be that ahead of time because if I could go back, I would have that hunting cabin. I'd have that wheelbarrow.
Yeah. And we're already seeing one of the interesting meta shifts compared to previous patches. Typically on water maps previously, you would just go, I don't know, you're happy just keeping 4 guys on food, rest on wood, a little bit on gold, get your age up. And then you sort of play water with a second dock when you're going up. But it's sort of transitioned a little bit now. You see a second dock in Dark Age quite quickly. Yeah. And guys are making much more fish boats than before. Obviously, Roos, they have the more expensive fish boats, so they can't really go for that. But yeah, it's just a little interesting little meta shift.
It also, I feel like all these changes together, it's another small thing that hurt the Roos is that, you know, you used to have a lot more extra gold, so you could afford to not have people there. You push more people onto wood, so then you can quickly get the wooden fortress to unlock that eco benefit for your Civ. But now, if you get a crappy start, if you don't get good bounty, you're going to have to put some people in the mining camp, which is also another 50 wood investment initially.
Yeah, I mean, we do see the benefit of Rus here. He's got 0 guys on gold. You don't really need... Like, again, the other weird thing is you don't really need too much gold in the current meta because obviously the ships are much more wood and food intensive. Yeah. But we do see the quick transformation. This is taking me back to the Boulder Bay times.
Oh, good Lord. We just don't see it often these days, right?
Yeah. I mean, going to be a lot of idle time here for Leenock, and he's only got 100 food, 150 food now, so he's only got the single Hulk coming out with a attack boat, but I mean, this is going to be a lot of damage.
He might lose another one if he's not careful. And the attempt to micro is going to be a fail. Leenock, what a fake back by Beastie. Instant turns around. Leenock's trying to optimize, get them back out. Instantly regrets it. So 2 fishing boats going down. Beastie already prepping the demo ships.
Yeah, I mean, this can be quite risky, obviously, because you're spending like 80 gold on something. Typically, you would want to get like wheelbarrow or broadaxe at this point, just so you can have like a stronger mid-game eco. But I mean, Beastie feels that he can pressure really quickly here with Roos. And we do see a demo boat coming out for Leenock because he's sort of expecting a Springald ship to be coming out. But no, the demo from Beastie is quite smart. I think he wants Leenock to sort of move out and chase him, and then it's just like, surprise, I got the demo. So
I've seen some players like panic in the last moment and try to use fishing boats to hide their demo ships. They do kind of look alike. Has that ever tricked you?
Yeah, I mean, that looks like a fish boat to me. It's just
why is that fishing boat on fire? What's going on
they're having
there?
a party, man. They got the barbecue on there.
Yeah, so they're just roasting the fish straight away.
Yeah, why
very
not?
efficient. There we go. So he'll just going to pull back for the moment. We are going to see the Springals now added in by Beastie. So it looks like both are going to kind of mirror each other's movements. No mass archer ships coming out here.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the previous series with Magic, he tried to go for the mass archer ship initially, but you sort of get pressured too quickly by the Springald ships. So I think you sort of need to build into that a little bit slower. You can't sort of go for it straight away. Yeah, this is a very quiet game, oddly enough.
Very tranquil, right?
Yeah, they're just doing their own thing. You know, got some fish.
I just like the music as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of adds a tranquil feeling. But, you know, every moment of peace has to be disrupted by explosions like a Michael Bay movie.
Of course. We don't, interestingly, no guys are going for gold here. For stone. So we don't see any quick transition to another TC or indeed the defensive arrow slit on the dock, which would secure sort of your side of the water. Yeah, they're sort of just like happy to be equal numbers in military and sort of just keep fishing. So
now the HRE usually they kind of feel like on a clock to have their full eco value, right? Because the Archon's great at first, but you eventually move out of range, not inspiring anymore. We have to remember Leenock only secured 1 woodline with his Archon. He didn't get the gold as well, so it could be a limiting factor long term. But it looks like BC's willing to take the trade now, moves in. Boom ship is going to be neglected. It's like the kids who's coughing that no one wants to play with.
Obviously, really nice micro by Leenock there. I think when we were playing practice games, he said online he's micro noob. But on land, Gosu. And I'd believe it, so...
I think it's the thing about AOE4 is like it's feasible to play long distance, right, on those pings, but there's still something. You still do feel.
Yeah, of course.
Second demo ship coming out. It's going to chase. So get back here where you going. We'll be able to take out one of the Hulk. Second demo coming in. And one of the issues is whenever you retreat like this, these archer ships are just tickling you down.
Yeah. I mean, good pressure by both players, honestly. You don't want to like put everything into one fight so quickly in the game. You sort of want to just keep feeling each other out and making sure they're not being too greedy and skipping boats when they should be making stuff. So let's see. We do see Wheelbarrow coming in for Beasty as Mapu highlights with the broad axe as well, and no Wheelbarrow for Leenock.
It's interesting. You think that Leenock would want it quicker because he's moving out further faster with the gathering rate, while Leenock's, Beasty's just fabricating extra wood, right?
Yeah.
So, trade's coming out. Demo ship. He's going to get maximum impact here, and he's going to be forced to stand his ground with the archers, and also adding in one or two springles now on the side of Beasty. Demo ship is going to try to sneak in while they're not looking, but Beasty quick on the reaction.
I mean, it looks good for Leenock though, honestly. Yeah, just like really nice pressure. I got nothing for you.
Boats, lots of boats.
Lots of boats, yeah.
And now fishing is exposed, so that's the knock-on effect, right? You're going to be pushed back fully. You mentioned the fact that they're still not in stone. One nice thing about the roost, they can quickly switch in if you had the bloody gold to do so. It's going to be a little bit awkward if Beasty has to rely on static defenses here.
I mean, look how much wood Beasty's got. He's got 30 people on wood.
Good God.
So, I mean, that is a very ugly hunting cabin, though.
And then look on the other side at Leenock. This is 15 food, 15 wood. Feels pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, 43 gold from the hunting cabin. Can't complain. Little nice rest spot for the Vils, but obviously blocking a little bit of pathing, but not the biggest deal.
There's going to be a little bit of push coming in. Leenock, I think he was trying to go for a land transition. You see this now, the horseman, so he's going to try to raid on land. It's actually a good time to do it because BC's reaching the outer limits of that wood line.
Yeah, and like we've seen basically because of so much pressure from Leenock this game as well as last, right? Like last game he was getting denied on the wood and gold. This game is the fish. So the fish boats from BC have not been gathering for like the longest time here. They just keep running around trying not to take damage. So,
is there a world in which Leenock just creeps Castle Age here?
I think eventually. I think that's like your obvious goal. Like as you mentioned, he's making a couple of horsemen now. You don't want to make too many. You're obviously not going to end the game with 2 to 4 horsemen here. You get some damage done, and then you sort of just like continue playing the game out. But yeah, a little bit of poking here. Make sure that BC can't come out and wall the relics in is obviously a good play. And I mean that wooden fortress is a long way away from where the Vils are, so.
Yeah, and immediately the ships come out. He's like, well, it's just one horse, but it's not worth the time. Instead, he's going to build the racks up, so BC forced to react here. Another annoying thing about playing Roost on these type of maps, you can't now just say, okay, I'll wall myself. 4 or 5 palisade walls, they take over double the time to build they used to. Yeah, I mean, like, this is like such a good play by Leenock, like choosing to go for the horseman while he's transitioning into castle, so. Well, honestly, actually, he does stop by to get wheelbarrow, which is a little bit interesting to me. I would have thought you're more than happy just skipping that for now and getting it a little bit later, but... I feel like if you really wanted it, you would have got it maybe like 2 minutes ago. Yeah, exactly. Because like if you look at his wood line at home, like Leenock is getting to the stage where I know it is at the extreme where, yeah, I really need this now, but it was already getting kind of absurd. And we do see quite similar numbers of ships in terms of the Navy count. So the Springald ships obviously making up the bulk of these, but the Demo's coming in, getting some huge hits, but... Yeah, but now the counter-attack of Demo ships, it says, okay, time for a taste of your own medicine, but Leenock just so quick and clean to pull back, and this is the advantage of being the aggressor, right? Like, BC has such little room to work with up against the coast. Leenock, it's not that case. Oh, he's stopping the ships, though. Whoopsie. Clips him. Not really the maximum impact you were looking for here, though. Most of the fleet stays alive. I think he got away with that, honestly. I think that could have been so much worse for Leenock there. He was sort of whittled down with the arrow boats. He had them on the top side shooting the fishing boats, I think, and then the Springald ships sort of focused them down. Obviously, the arrow boats having a massive damage bonus against the Demo ships, so if you ever run out of them mid-map, you can be in real big trouble. But yeah, I'm still surprised Leenock chose to go for wheelbarrow instead of just going for a quicker castle here. I mean, I think he was quite comfortable with the amount of navy he had. Could have just secured his position at home. He wasn't really at risk of taking like so much damage, but looks like it's going to be even longer feudal, which I think that suits Beasty here. Absolutely. If Leenock does get up into that age, he can look to maybe just funnel out a few knights. Then all of a sudden, it's not the horseman story we're talking about. It's someone that is actually really going to hurt you. But looks like instead, Leenock is going to be adding in some racks as well. Interesting choice here. Men at Arms?
I guess so. I mean, I think this is risky though.
Yeah.
Like, can you actually afford to be making man-at-arms while holding on water, you know? Like, we see Beasty, he's got 11 arrow chips now, so as we mentioned before, he's finally switching into the mass arrow strat. If Leenock comes out on water and tries to contest and he's not ready, he can get overrun very quickly here, so...
And the weird thing about archer ships, so the whole point you have to like snowball them is partly to do with the AoE. Another thing is like later in the game, you've naturally got your hands on the blacksmith upgrades as well.
Yep.
Adds a hell of a lot of damage into these pew-pew ships.
Yeah, it's really strong. If you get caught out, you can just lose your navy like very quickly, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think BC's like fought himself into a comfortable position in this game now. He was getting pressured very heavily. He was sort of down, you know, 200, 300 wood per minute when he was a fishing eco was being harassed. But yeah, he sort of resecured that, got a nice spread on his navy here, and Leenock's trying to push out into it.
Here we go. Archer ship clusters getting ready. Demo ships following around, actually coming in from the north side. That's going to be a beaut hitting on the side. Takes out Hulk and the equation. And now the mass archer spam. This is where it can reign supreme. Stands his ground, whittles him down. And now Leenock, he's clustered together. Multiple ships are getting hit by this. This fight is going to be a win for Beasty.
It's still close. It's still very close, but we do see some extra demos going in. 3 Hulks going down there, so that's huge.
It's the spring ones as well, right?
Yeah.
Like Beasty kept a few in there, so now it's like equal exchange there. And the count is looking grim. And part of this, we've got to bring it back to the fact that Leenock did start to invest in these men-at-arms. That's going to cripple his ability to reboot water.
Yeah, I mean, the longer this game goes on, the better it looks for Beasty, right? Like, he has the flexibility with the Golden Gate to sort of fix any eco holes he has. He's got like a big increase in the wood count here, so up 400 extra wood over Leenock, and we see Spearman coming in, so...
He's like, oh, I thought you were sending more cavalry.
Yeah.
Well, what do I do with these now? What if we just go kill villagers? Leenock's like, thank God I got wheelbarrow. That was the real value, huh? Oh, good lord, the archers though. Boom ships coming around the side, trying to get in deep for maximum impact. Of course, they don't get that bonus damage, but it's a big hit nonetheless, taking out 3 or 4.
We see 3 more coming in as well. I think this is Leenock done on water. Yep. I think he's going to lose everything here.
It's like, farewell, princess. You can't stay around too much longer. Also, he's losing land eco. BC, we didn't highlight it before, but he's always remained economically ahead, 10 to 15 lead at any given time, and going to extend further because of these annoying spears.
Yeah, I mean, man-at-arms is not exactly so good against the massive spearman here, and we see the rest of Leenock's navy getting cleaned up.
He's just giving up on it.
Yeah.
Like, he's nowhere near castle. I mean, this is... It doesn't get much worse than this. I mean, we talked about, and exactly, he agrees. That's going to be it. He waves the white flag. Beasty remains calm in the face of the HRE dominance and takes what some people would call an unexpected win against what has been the domineering force on the sea.
Yeah, I mean, like, BC played it to perfection, really. I mean, he was getting pressured quite heavily early on, didn't panic, didn't say, like, oh, I need to get arrow slit to not die. Just, okay, I can deal with this, just absorb the pressure and then just come out with the mid-game pressure. And, yeah, I mean, really well done.
It's true. When he's got that kind of focused face, you can just imagine him going, this is fine.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got the new portrait on his account, I think, so why not?
And that means Leenock now finds himself with his back up against the wall. Best of 5s, of course, so BC now match point. And, well, Leenock, he's got to think, did the water map go better? Did the land map go better? Well, I got a win on land, so I guess we're going to have to look at some dry Arabia when we come to game 4.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, Leenock overinvested in land. I mean, we were saying, like, yeah, the horsemen were good, but then he goes back for man-at-arms, and it's like, I think you need to get to castle in that position and sort of be a bit more aggressive with your options on water.
He split his attention too soon, but because, we're past the split point in the series, we're going to have to split the balance in interviews. You already heard from Leenock. I think it's only fair that we hear from Beasty as well.
My name is Beastyqt and I come from Serbia. I just tried to play with as many people as I could, if they were not on my side of the bracket or the group, because I wanted to avoid that. Try to get the variety and to make sure I'm prepared for everything. I came as one of the higher seeded players, and my first match is someone I'm very comfortable playing against, and overall group I feel pretty good. Both groups are really, really difficult, but I think going into potentially playoffs, I like my group and my chances. You know, best of threes are always scary in the group stage, but as long as I make it into the playoffs, best of fives or maybe even best of seven series, I think suit me way more. And my main goal is just getting basically out of the best of three stages and going into longer series. So far, the event's been great. You know, seeing everyone and meeting the new players has been really fun. I have been competing for quite a while, so I do have LAN experience, and I'm just looking forward to, you know, playing once again and competing. As long as I play my game and I do what I practiced, I should be able to do really well. Most confident, probably the AOE2 guys, because they haven't had as much practice. Specifically, I want to play against the Viper. He beat me at the chess game earlier, and I'm pissed, and I need my revenge.
Beat him in a chess game. He's angry. He wants revenge. You know, chess is a game mostly mirrored. One person starts first. First pick is a big advantage, but we thought, what can we do to get that kind of experience in AOE4? How about a mirror matchup for the first time in the tournament?
I know. Like we mentioned before, we haven't had any mirrors in the group stages, obviously with the different draft rule set. But yeah, the first time we're going to see a mirror, and it's going to be a Delhi mirror.
Yeah, this is a matchup that, you know, sometimes you talk about mirror matchups like, oh God, this is going to be like an hour long, right? Like it's going to be, both people pick Chinese, no one's doing anything. That's not this matchup. Delhi is all about the aggression, even in the mirrors. Yeah,
it's a crazy matchup. It's been a long time, I think, since we've seen a very high level Delhi mirror. So I'm excited to see this one, actually.
I think, like, we always talk historically about the French mirror for being amazing. It's like, oh, how you chip away at people. But I feel like this is maybe the more micro-intensive one, because when you get in that big clash, like 50 units on 50, like who's pulling back spearmen, horsemen, who's healing the right units, all those small details add up fast. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's so many different ways, like, Delhi likes to play in general versus the other civs, but the mirror is very weird, obviously. Yeah, you see some wacky things, like I think I've seen a brilliant thing is when you used to get the elephants, the tower elephants coming out a lot. And what was the best, like people were like, what would you do to counter these? On the old version where they were really broken, I was like, you pick Delhi in a mirror, you get forced march, and you just run on top of them with spears and say, see ya, sucker. But you know what? We're going to say hello to a map. It's time to hop into our fourth game here. Beastyqt leading on match point. Leenock was looking to cinch one back, pulled away from the warp maps onto land, but he ended up finding himself in a Delhi mirror here. Let's see what's going to happen. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a slow burn to begin with, obviously. I would expect both guys to sort of do mirror builds, obviously, for the mirror. Makes sense. I'd say Beastyqt traditionally, probably the more comfortable on Delhi than Leenock. I mean, for a long time, Leenock, as we mentioned before, pretty much only played Abbasid, and then sort of brought out Delhi. I think at N4C as well, brought out Delhi in one of the big games there. So, I mean... Yeah. Delhi was kind of a very meaningful civ for the first half a year of the game release. It felt like people were doing some cheesy things. At first, like elephants, they worked. No. Then it was the tower rushes with the stone walls. Right?
I don't want to talk about that stuff.
No? You don't want to go back there? Do you remember good old King of the Hill?
Yeah, I'm too traumatized by Salami playing versus me, so...
I mean, it's the Wololols from him that really do it. The facepalm, you're like, how did he get me? Where did this... He should be taking that back home to bank the relic. Why is it in my economy?
Yeah, it's not a good feeling, I'll tell you that much, but...
Marcus Ladd, shout out to Mr. Sausage Man and what he does to the Delhi. But of course, in the Delhi, where it got really interesting is in the height of French aggression dominating Dry Arabia. These guys took the top spot. They took it away from them.
I mean, yeah, it was interesting. I remember when the game first came out, you know, like everyone was saying Delhi sucks, not playable. And then I remember Vortex comes out with, I think it was like the double mosque build, you know, back when Horsemen were really tanky as well. And, I mean, it completely changed the way the game played out for the first couple of months. Like, everyone thought they sucked, and, hey, they're really good, so... Yeah, and then in the Road to Wololo, we even saw some people dangling Tower of Victory in our faces saying, maybe that's the way. I don't think it's the way in a mirror, right? That's definitely not the place. No, I mean, you still have a lot of value from the Scholar healing, as well as, obviously, you want to take and contest the Sacred Sites. So just having them in your army and just healing is, like, a lot of value in itself. Yeah, that's a fair point. And like the other way it goes is like these archers that have the extra attack speed. Let's say you start spamming archers. But if the scholars are there very early on, then you've only got 8, 9 archers. Yeah. It's not enough to kill off these scholars. Yeah, unless you're one-shotting, go home, son. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot to one-shot a scholar, I'll tell you that
really
much.
Does.
Yeah.
It's like 140 health. You do, what, 5 damage with normal archers?
Not a good feeling.
And they're like, well, it's okay, I'll build blacksmiths. I'll decrease the count. Yeah, but it's going to take a little bit of time. Of course, that's the beauty of this Civ. Time is their expense. They don't have to pay for anything they get. And I think there was a slight edge, like Leenock starting his techs in the mosque over Beasty. Nothing too big, maybe like 5 or 10 seconds.
Yeah, just a slight little variation in the build orders here, but obviously what both guys are comfortable with, so not a big difference. The interesting thing with the map generation is Leenock's got 2 berries in the far right of his base, which you can very easily wall off and defend. Beasty's going to have to go a little bit further out to get his resources. So we've got the back berries here, sort of happy with that, but I mean, this is going to be a key spot for him if he wants to secure this. Got the berries and the deer, always nice, and then the other deer pack is further up to the north as well.
I think that although you've got retracted berries to Leenock, there's kind of a difference in the surrounding resources in terms of defenses. Like this wood line for Beasty means one angle approach is hard, but Leenock, unless he walls past near these wood lines, those berries are out in no man's land, right? They're pretty open. Yeah, so important, I'd say, like Leenock to maybe be the aggressor here.
Yeah, I think Beasty's probably a little bit more comfortable with his map, to be honest, overall. I think it's going to all depend on who gets the very center sacred side, honestly. I think if you control that, you can control, obviously, Beasty would be able to defend the northern deer pack, and then he probably has an easier time accessing the very far north sacred side as well. But
yeah, they're really well spread out, actually. You know, some maps, when you get in, I think the classic one was always Lipany. There's 2 sacred sites next to each other. They're like, you know, they're twins. They can never be separated, and then one on its own. Dry Arabia's always been very fine-tuned to balance it like this. And even though they're not perfectly distanced, it feels like no player has an advantage in terms of reaching them.
Yeah, of course. And obviously a very even relic spread as well. I think it's fine, yeah.
No, I mean, big shout out to Patio, the work he does. You know, we know he works behind the scenes.
Of course.
I'm shouting him out for the good things, but don't worry if he does something bad.
Yeah, we don't mention those.
I mean, like, you know, I love that he's here helping Crazzini, but I did warn him. I was like, I feel like if anything goes wrong, like Crazzini's going to pull out the execution outfit, and it's going to be your head on the platter, mate.
Poor Petito, the little duck man.
Poor Petito, about to be sliced like a potato. But looking at these openings, I think, did we get a mirror? He cancelled the racks. Interesting choice here. Switcheroo after he sees, did he see the racks and then do it? No, he saw the archery range.
Yep. But obviously an instant barracks from Leenock in response to that.
Yeah.
Obviously not going to have the benefit of early blacksmith. As we see, BC, obviously he's more comfortable playing the horseman here, going to have a little bit of map control. Decides, okay, you're going to the counter unit, but I just won't fight you. So more than comfortable getting the blacksmith. Probably see him go into, what do you think? Maybe +1 arrows? Maybe defense? Yeah, range defense.
Yeah. I think you've got to prep for it. Like you said, you just want to skirt the fight, stay away. Like for him, it's not how much damage can I do, it's how little damage can I take on the horseman, because you can always just peel them back and heal.
Yep.
So, like that priority. And that's one thing I think is very elegant about the Delhi Mirror at this stage is, like, you know, you see some matchups where this person goes spears, and you're like, oh, now I have to go spears as well, right? Oh, he goes archer, I have to go archers. You can kind of dip in different ways, and you can pivot your builds, whether it's blacksmiths or the archery range into the blacksmith play, or the archery range into the stables. There's just so many variances there.
And actually, I think with the Northern Sacred Side, he probably won't be able to wall that either player because of the location of the gold mine, to be honest. But, I mean, probably not the biggest issue, but we do see a little bit of harassment here from BC, trying to get in and poke the gold miners here. A classic Beasty move, you know, 1 horseman on either side, and you've got 1 spearman. It's just being a little bit annoying, but won't take any damage for Leenock.
Lad's getting his workout. He's like, whoa. Gotta keep going around. So instead, BC says, okay, I'm going to keep going around towards the berries. Get the hell off of them, son. I don't want you getting those gathering rates, so we'll have to go club some sheep instead. Of course, a much less desirable gathering rate than the berries that the Delhi always want to be on. Yeah,
I mean, the berry patch is almost done, but, I mean, it's still a lot of idle time. You would like to, you know, slowly trickle guys off of the berries and get them back on the food under the TC, but I mean, it's just nice little pressure, right? Like, he's forcing Leenock to be more defensive than he would like to be. He'd like to be getting on map with he's got the counter unit, right?
What in Lord is happening here? There's a peasant rebellion going on. He decided Shivs had to come out here. He really wants those berries.
Yeah.
Okay. The walls are going up afterwards, so it's like not too bad of a play, even though, like you said, that idle time is another element of idle time for Leenock.
Yeah. I mean, I think BC seeing this is going to be really happy.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Losing one horseman a bit annoying, right? But as long as the
that's
rest
fine.
get out.
I mean, the fact that he sees walls here instantly is just like, okay, cool. Like, I have all the map pressure. Like, we see archers coming out from BC, obviously a lot later than Leenock invested in his archery range. And, I mean, Leenock didn't even make archers, right? He knew the horsemen were going to be coming, so he's sort of just playing defensive with the spearmen. But he did follow BC into the stable, but guess what? You're behind in unit count now, so...
I think this is the advantage of always opening cavalry, especially in mirrors like this. Like you alluded to it, like this whole idea, you know, he gets to harass you, he gets to keep you boxed in. So while Leenock is trying to put out fires in his base, you know, should we look at Beasty's base? Is very tranquil there.
Yeah.
No one's being harassed, no one's being attacked at all. It's as peaceful as it can be. And this exchange out here, the Scholar really is making the difference. Just trading horseman for horseman. Looks like something that Leenock should come out ahead in, though. Beasty overconfident in the power of the healing.
I mean, he's already secured 2 sacred sites, though, right? So,
True.
like, he's getting like a massive benefit of the trickle gold already. So, yeah. Again, I'm surprised at how defensive Leenock was being initially. I think like if he was able to sneak like 1 spearman out and just have it on map, just doing something, because I mean, BC's just pressured beautifully this game. He's taken map control for himself. He's got his resources spread out already. He's on the back berries. Yeah, it's looking really comfortable.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again, but I feel like at this point a coach who only has one pep talk thing to say, proactivity over reactivity.
That's right.
Every day of the week, my friend. And right now you can feel that Leenock is just reacting everywhere. I don't feel like we've seen one move that's been his choice so far.
I mean, he's a bit more comfortable to move out now that he's got the wall done on the right-hand side. Obviously, that is a big investment early on. You don't really feel good having to make that sort of wall, but I mean, he's obviously denied the ability for BC to wrap around to the north side of the base and does secure these barrier packs, of course. But it looks a lot more comfortable for BC so far.
Yeah, I think where this could get interesting for Leenock is now he's got all these horsemen. Just give BC a taste of his own medicine, right?
Yeah.
Go in the back. Like if you look at the west corner, BC has shifted out into the berries. You find this, it's time to spank BC instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very typical feeling, you know, like you're pressuring, you're doing good stuff, you think you've got like a good control of the map, and then just like 5 horsemen rock up at your berries, and it's like, oh, I was too greedy, or I forgot to do this. So
yeah, like war is preemptive walling. Who does that?
Yeah,
right?
of course. Of course. But we do see the horseman actually splitting off to the south side now and might end up finding their way to the berries, but it looks like he's going towards the sacred site instead. But Leenock securing the middle sacred site now.
Which is important considering like he went hard in the spears. He wants the shortest route to have that flexibility to go back and forth, or even think about assaulting BC's base. Yeah,
and as I mentioned before, the gold mine getting in the way of the walls there, so a little bit more expensive to wall that northern side. But I mean, it's such a classic Delhi play, right? Like they get the walls up around the sacred site, and the amount of time investment you need to break through and actually start denying it, it gives them so much time to react.
Yeah, and the tough part is like, let's say Leenock goes north and tries to torch into this one. BC just comes to the center one, torches through, and vice versa. That's the advantage of having the 2 sacred sites layered first. Wonder if, do you just think about quickly sneaking Castle Age? Because Leenock is saving for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, BC's making archers, which Leenock has sort of neglected. He's only got 5. BC obviously going a little bit heavier into feudal, and yeah, I mean, Leenock will be quite happy, I think, in this situation, to be honest. If BC's still investing into archers in a minute's time, he's going to have more opportunity to take back the sacred sites for himself, but Leenock's going to have the tech advantage getting to castle a lot quicker.
Do you think the advantage of getting all 3 sacred sites at that point is good enough for BC to then catch up, or do you think it'll just put Leenock clearly ahead?
I mean, if Leenock grabs 4 or 5 relics, I think that's the main thing, the main advantage in the mirror of getting the Castle Age tech, right?
And the crafty bugger's making his way in. We talked about that back berry spawn. He's moving there, but he ran past the base. So Beasty, I wouldn't be surprised if those villagers are already shifting away. Nope, they're just on a coffee break. They'll finally head for the stealth forests. I'd hope.
But only 1 tower, though, but a little bit of misattention. Okay, Leenock does pay attention again.
It's because he's going in the base on the front side. He's also idling the wood line. This is a great pivot by Leenock, and behind this, he still has the possibility to go for Castle Age, depending on how this fight goes.
Yeah, I mean, he's making a few units, but he's not really investing further into feudal here. Obviously, the berries have run out, but a lot of pressure on BC's side here.
10 idle villagers for Leenock, he just fixed that. And also Beasty, because he peeled away the horsemen chasing these villagers, he's at least getting something in the western corner again, but still, We'll lose a few villagers. Textiles will mitigate some of those losses at least. I love the way that they're both just deciding to not bow down. It's not a kind of like, oh, I need to defend now. It's like, no, we will aggress it on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Lean Octopus, man. Like, he's renowned for his multitasking, and we're seeing it in full effect here. Interestingly, he has gone back into making a couple more units, so perhaps deciding that he needs to continue pressuring here, but I can't help but feel I think Castle was the correct play here, right? Like he's pressuring so hard on BC's side of the map. He's harassing with his army on 2 different spots, forcing BC to run after him. He has so much opportunity to go Castle.
Yeah. It just feels like in this situation, you saw BC, you mentioned it, he's investing in a lot of archers, he's doubling down on feudal.
Yeah.
Worst thing you can do is go, I'm going to fight you. Let's make this feudal last a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, I think Leenock now following him into making like a bigger feudal army just benefits BC now. I think like if BC saw Leenock aged up and he's sitting on like 20 archers, like he's really sad, but I mean, there's still beautiful pressure from Leenock coming out here, but needs to be really careful.
Nice save on the Scholar. It's that cyclone effect, like you get sucked into the whirlpool. It's something you're always trying to avoid, but it feels like it swings and roundabouts, right? Opening for Beastie, where he sucked Leenock into those responses. And then that swings Leenock. Now we're going back the other way, but in fairness, Beastie is getting crippled here. It's now almost a 10 villager lead for Leenock.
Yeah, it's big, but we do see a big army on the left-hand side getting caught out, but Leenock's coming in with some reinforcing horsemen.
But the Spearmen are also mirroring the movement, so it's going to be tough for Leenock to extract value here. And he is running out of space to retreat towards. He's going to turn around in the Stealth Forest to try and snipe out the Scout. That's what's giving the vision for the Archers to attack. And it looks like there's an engagement coming. Horsemen surging forward. But Scholars can easily become the front line. It's just impossible for him to fight this now. He retreats past it and just has to bite his lips and accept the losses here, because this is easily going to be a fight win for Beastie.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the beautiful army movement from Leenock coming over to the left-hand side, killing a bunch of villagers, but, I mean, he gets his army trapped and killed, and now Beastie is the one who's going Castle Age.
Where did this come from, Hart? Wait, what? I feel like we were talking about Leenock for so long, he's going to get Castle Age, and then Beastie's like, not only have I still got feudal aggression, ta-da!
I mean, like we're mentioning, it's all about the archers, right? They're very food cheap, so BC can afford to make comparatively more archers than the sort of units Leenock's making. He's making horsemen, spearmen with, you know, a little bit of archery, but I mean, yeah, just BC sort of realized I don't need to invest so much more into feudal. I can be comfortable with what I've got. And yeah, he's heading up, and I think Leenock is going to be a little bit miffed about this.
I don't even think he saw it when he ran through the base of the Horseman, because you would have attacked them on the compound of the Defender, right, to try and delay it. I think it was like very much on the edge, so even now he's like, oh, crap.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay, I didn't even get a small heads up. Instead, now you really need to do something. Best thing you can do is camp a few relics. Be happy that BC was defending in the back of his base, but now you're going to be the one that defends.
I mean, this is the tough part about playing versus Delhi, right? BC was getting pressured so much, but Leenock didn't have the opportunity to break down the walls and get into the sacred site. So BC's still reaping the benefit of having the trickle gold from them.
And it's going to be a mirrored idea to go into the compound of the Defender. I feel like, actually, so far, we've only seen compound of the Defender here at this tournament.
I can't even remember what the other landmark is. House of Wisdom, House of Learning.
Yeah, I was about to ironically go, let me teach you something. It's a House of Learning.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, it's weird because we see a lot of men-at-arm spam as well, but is it just too slow to get the home blades?
Yeah, I mean, like, crossbowmen obviously dominant in this matchup, and indeed in all matchups. So, I mean, combat defender makes the most sense, especially for Delhi. You get the cheaper TCs, castles, everything you want. So, yeah, it just makes perfect sense.
And Leenock says, okay, I still have mid-map control on my side. I'm teching up. What if we just start grabbing the stone as quickly as possible?
Be interesting to see where he puts it. Does he go for the kill straight away, or does he try and secure the middle sacred site and then push from there?
I think you go 1-2, right? You don't overextend with it.
Yeah, you don't need to be overly aggressive here. I mean, BC obviously has the advantage of being up to castle a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
But again, like perhaps BC went to castle too quickly. He sacrificed a bit of map control to get the tech advantage, but yeah, he just needs to leverage what he has and try and get out on the map and grab some relics.
He's swinging back around on that relics though. You can see 2 just got banked, the 3rd one's coming in. So he's getting the lion's share of the gold, not to mention the fact he still has 2 sacred sites. So even though it's still a 10 eco lead for Leenock, that's shriveled up by this value the other way. Wololo's going to come out, that's going to force a clash. No heals in time. You saw what BC was trying to do there. He's just have to pick up the relic and accept that it's going to be gold and not a conversion of an army.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like a really good fight for Beastie, right? Like, he's got just enough archers to make sure the spearmen aren't too much of a threat to the knights, but I mean, we still don't see
Oh,
the...
he's retreating.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see the veterancy upgrade for archers yet coming through, so...
He's going for the wall again. He baits him in.
Oh, no.
Can he heal it, though? He can't get the heals off. They were patting each other's head. Beasty is too busy trying to get a flashy play in this one. It's another Wololo attempt. He's not going to stop, and this time, he'll at least get it off. Leenock is too slow to respond. He gets a massive chunk of the army, and the villagers are also out here fighting on top of it.
I mean, that's that's such a good Wololo, right? I think Salami would be proud of that one, but we see the villagers coming out. He obviously wants to try and drop a keep somewhere here, but, I mean, can he even win this fight?
Yeah, I think he comes out slightly ahead at the end of it, just because Leenock's pushing more right now. But what the villagers do afterwards, we've got another Wololo coming in. Wait, where is it? What?
That's the classic Salami. That's the bait one, you know? It's just like, hey, bro, there's something going on over here. Don't look at the fight.
Leenock just runs away, like, what's going on right now? But Leenock, he remains calm. He will just stay focused on the fight, even gets the shivs out from villagers. So although the Wololo came through, although BC made it a little bit more even, Leenock still keeps momentum, and now he will be looking for a very aggressive keep drop after this win.
Yeah, I mean, Leenock, he kept the archer count high. You know, he sort of whittled away what Beasty had, but there's still a lot of spearmen for Beasty here. Not exactly the greatest unit against spears, of course, but, I mean, these are Vills tanking the front line.
It is, and even with textiles, they're not going to last forever, and they're not exactly cheap. It's not like they're the Bastards. Just look at the eco situation. They're about to be neck and neck, and soon it's going to be Leenock neck on the chopping block.
Yeah, I mean, BC was behind in Vills for a lot of this game because of the harassment of Leenock, but, I mean, Leenock feels pressured to go for the kill now.
I mean, the kill on what? The rocks?
Yeah, why not?
He's just trying to gather stone on the front line here. He's like, oh man, these guys have been idle for a long time. I need them to work. Because that's the thing, even though it's even on the economy, the amount of villagers out here, BC has a dominant lead, enough to close out the series. Leenock knows when he's beat and he's done with being pummeled. Beasty will take the win, 3-1 to boot Leenock out of Wololo Legacy.
Like, honestly, that's a really hard situation to play from in the Daily Mirror. He wasn't so keen to invest in army so much. He just had the perfect amount of stuff right. We were saying, okay, Leenock's got the archer advantage. Okay, well, BC didn't ignore archers just because he doesn't have enough to be ahead in count. He just has enough to, you know, dissuade spearmen, so then the knights can come in and do damage. Yeah, he just played the map really well. Didn't get too flustered with the Vills going down. He was obviously behind in Nico, but yeah, I mean, BC definitely one of the best Delhi players we have, so very impressive performance here. Most
definitely. I think some people maybe off that second map, the one that Leenock took, they'd be a little bit tilted with the way things went down, because we talked a little afterwards. That was not a great spawn, especially for a civ like the HRE. The thing about BC, you know, maybe it's just a brag and it's not true, but he says, you know, I don't get tilted very easily. You know, if there's a 1% chance for me to win a game, I'll stick in it. Admittedly, tilt sometimes, but usually it's when there's a bug involved in the process. So I think that what I'm trying to get at is, like, some players maybe would have thrown off. You come on the third map, maybe Leenock gets some momentum, but BC, calm as can be going through all this series. And what a way to close it out with our first mirror, a very enjoyable one.
Yeah, I mean, like we're mentioning, I think Leenock felt pressure to go for the win versus probably the stronger opponent. Yeah, I mean, beautiful play by Beasty. What can we say?
Yeah, and that means he keeps the stream live. Of course, that means Leenock will go out. I believe Beasty will match up against either Marine Lord or Puppy Paw. I was talking to the two. Beasty was a little bit annoyed at Marine Lord for ruining the bracket structure.
I would be too.
But you know what? Let's see if he's annoyed about anything now. I'm sure he's very happy to win. Let's head across the stage with an interview. Ellie has got